Should you read these books? Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I'm going to be doing a short review video. It should be in my wrap up, but I'd rather do a short video like this where I talk about recent releases and if you should read them or not. So these books that I'm going to be talking about are actually books that were published in the month of September and also the month of October. I actually had arcs of these books, but I never had the opportunity to read them in advance of their release date. But lucky for me, I actually ended up reading it within kind of a month after its release date, which is pretty good as I do have a lot of books. So the books that I will be covering for this video includes Tools of Engagement, Well Met by Jen DeLuca, In the Holidays by Christina Lauren, and also The Roommate by Rosie Danan. So I'm excited to talk about all these books and excited to also give you recommendations and my final verdict of whether you should read these or not. So for the first book that I'm going to talk about my most recent read called Well Played by Jen DeLuca. So now this is a book that is second in the series. The first book is called Well Met. So if you guys haven't seen it already, it's the really pretty book with the green cover and it takes place in a Renaissance fair. So this book is book number 2 and it follows our main character from the first book's best friend. So her name is actually Stacy. So Stacy sees that her best friend is doing really well and she's actually happy with her relationship that we've seen in Well Met, and they are progressing in their life, or so Stacy thinks. And Stacy kind of feels that her life has remained stagnant. Nothing is new, nothing is changing. She's kind of staying at home in the small town, completing weird jobs to make money and also participating in this Renaissance fair, and she's in a rut basically. So when she sees that her friends are happy and they have a happy, loving relationship, she wants to have one too. So she decides to text her fling, which is named Dex. And Dex is actually a kind of a rock star. He's the lead singer in a band, or he's just in a band. He tours around the country and he has a lot of fangirls, and they had this really great friends with benefits relationship ongoing in the summer, but she wants to see if she can make something more out of it. So when they exchange numbers and they actually have this whole long texting conversation, she starts to grow feelings for Dex. It's not until she realizes that the person that she's talking to is actually not Dex and it might be actually someone else. And this is kind of a fun little romantic comedy set in a Renaissance fair in the summertime, and it's lighthearted. It doesn't hold any much deeper issues except for the fact that you're gonna have a character who is very stuck in her ways. She feels like she's in a major rut, so it can be depressing at times when you're reading about it, and you might not be able to connect with her a lot, especially if you don't feel that you are in a rut personally. And then also our main male character, the secret guy, you will kind of feel annoyed, at least I did feel annoyed about him, because I felt that they were both very much the same. They both felt like that they were in a rut. They both had very low self-esteem and they both didn't really fight for each other in the end. So that kind of annoyed me when there was a major conflict and it seemed like that they couldn't be together. I felt like there wasn't just enough oomph from the both of them. So I had to give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It was very entertaining and it really grips you from the first page. I really do enjoy the story and I love Jen DeLuca's writing. So I still recommend you to pick this one up if you're a fan of Well Met, or pick up Well Met if you haven't read it yet, and then pick up Well Played. So the next book that I'm reviewing is In the Holidays by Christina Lauren, and this is Christina Lauren's latest novel in 2020, and they are the romantic author powerhouse that is able to push out so many books each year and through a traditional publisher, and this is from Simon Schuster. So I actually received a finished copy from Booksparks, and I also received an ARC copy from Simon Schuster, so I have 2 copies now, which is fine. This one's a finished copy. This one is about kind of it's a Groundhog Day holiday romance, and it's about our main character named May, who every year kind of follows tradition and goes with her family to this cabin with their family friend, I think it was, and they kind of have this ongoing tradition where they just spend the holidays together. May is actually secretly in love with one of the boys in the cabin, which is named Andrew, and then Andrew also has a brother named Theo, and this is kind of a love triangle situation where May really likes Andrew but Theo actually has feelings for May, and you're always kind of wondering who she would finally go with in the end. And then May feels kind of a little bit anxious because she doesn't like the changes that are happening in her life, and she also doesn't like the things that are happening in her life too, and she feels like she's not happy. She feels like she's in a rut, just like the characters in Well Played, and she decides to ask the world, show me something that makes me happy. And it was then where tires screech, everything goes black, and it seems like they've got into this major car crash. But then she wakes up and it's like a different day, but it's the same day, and it's repeated back and forth and all over again. So she kind of like time travels all the way back, and then she relives her day repeatedly. And this is kind of like a fun story set with that fun build up in that setting, and also in the holiday season. For me, I feel like personally I didn't really get much of a holiday season. Like I didn't really get like much of the Christmas cheer and like the vibes that I was expecting to get. I also didn't really like how this book kind of started off right in the middle. I feel like with In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, you kind of just got smacked right down the middle. Somebody explained to you the relationships and who the characters are, but then time traveling takes place, and then they'll go back in time. Certain things are not properly seen. It's more explained to you that it did happen, but you were never able to see it as a reader. So it felt like I was being misplaced in a lot of points in the story. So it left me lacking a connection to the characters as well as the plot, and it lacked that emotional attachment, so that I couldn't really give this book a higher rating than a 3 out of 5 stars. So the next book that I'm going to talk about is Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey, and this book came out in September 2020, but I actually read an ARC copy of this book way back probably in May or in June because I got really excited, and I love Tessa Bailey's writing ever since I read her first book, Fix Her Up, and my personal favorite, Love Her or Lose Her, which is book 2 in this series. I think this book series is called Hot and Hammered, but I do stand corrected. This is the third and final book in the series involving home renovations and a family business that renovates houses and flips them for profit. And this is the story that follows our main female character, who is the oldest sister of the group, and she is deemed as like Elsa. She is an ice queen. She shows no emotion. She's all business sense, and she wants to prove to her family that as a female, she is still capable of running a successful renovation business, or successful enough to run a flip project. And her brother, unfortunately, does not feel that she is capable of it because she is a female, and there's a lot of misogynistic comments made by the brother in this, but she is willing to do it by herself. So she breaks away from the family group to start her own rival business, and that's when she enlists the help of her brother's kind of like best man in the construction business. And this is the romance between an older female and a younger male. There's a lot of Pride and Prejudice happening in here, where our older female main character is very scared and wary of our male character because he is deemed as a playboy since he flirts with a lot of girls, and our main female character doesn't want to be seen as another notch on his bed frame. This is kind of like a very hot and cold romance. So if you guys like that push and pull effect, if you guys like them constantly kind of giving into each other but also pulling themselves back, and that emotional whiplash, then maybe you will enjoy this book. But for me personally, I felt that she was just so stubborn at times that it made me really hard to actually like her enough. So I ended up actually giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars, which is actually the lowest rating I've given in the series. Like I said before, my favorite was the second book in the series called Love Her or Lose Her, which was kind of about a marriage breakdown and these two people who needed better communication skills in a marriage. And then the first one, I think I gave a 4 out of 5 stars, which is a very nice introduction to the series of a younger girl who is not taken seriously because she doesn't take her seriously. So she is actually a clown, like a party clown. And it's her relationship between her brother's best friend, which is like also of a forbidden relationship too as well. So if you guys want to just conclude the series, definitely do check this book out. It's still good, but I just personally don't think it's as good as others. So the last book that I want to talk about is a debut from an author. This book is called The Roommate by Rosie Danan. And now this book, I had no idea what this book was about. I just saw the cover of it in my Berkley newsletter, and I requested an ARC of it, and I got the e-ARC, but I never went went around to read it, but I knew my friend Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers was really excited to read this one. And she gave it like a really good rating. She gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. She was kind of raving it. And out of my friend group, she was kind of like the only one that did read it. I had no idea what this one was about. So when I first walked into it, I was very shocked. If you guys are a fan of The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hong, then definitely pick this book up because it has the same vibes. The cover is very misleading. You think that this one is going to be a romantic comedy, but it's actually not. This one's more kind of like erotic in a sense because we have a main female character who is not very in tune with her sexuality. She never really learned how to properly please herself, to really ask for what she wants in the bedroom within her past relationships, and she never had a man to really kind of show her the ways. So this is the story of her and her roommate who happen to share the same apartment building with each other, and he just so happens to be kind of like a sex worker. He is a porn star and he knows the way in the bedroom, so he offers to help, and this is kind of like the plot of the story. Overall, like, you kind of understand like her own like deep insecurities as well as his, because he is a sex worker and he gets a lot of shame for it. Unfortunately, this book definitely shines like a brighter light on the industry as well as the prejudice against people who work in the industry, and as well as it positively talks about sex. Overall, this book had its good intentions and it was fun in a way because it was very hot and it's very steamy, but unfortunately for me, I just didn't really like our main female character that much. She was deemed as kind of like a prude. She was kind of like a socialite, and she really cared about her career and her profession, and she is supposed to be very supportive of him and his career and also his like industry and things like that. But then when trouble comes, she's kind of like the first one to run away, and I was very upset about it because I was like, that's kind of not what your character was, or it was established from the beginning. I would have never expected this to come from you, so I was disappointed in her. And overall, the book was just lackluster for me. Like, I felt like this was just like an average read to pick up if I was bored and I wanted something hot and steamy. Definitely this one, I gave it a very low 3 out of 5 stars. But anyways, that is it for my quick review video. Hopefully this video has helped you in deciding on what you should add to your carts, or what books you should borrow first from the library, or which books you should read first on your TBR. Let me know in the comments down below how you felt about some of these books if you read them before. But until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye.